The old Rivercrest terminal groaned under the weight of decades. Rusted beams held up the high glass ceilings that were too often covered in soot. Rain streaked across the wide windows, painting gray streaks over the desolate waiting platforms. The clock above the main hall ticked slowly, each movement sounding unnaturally loud in the empty expanse. At 2:07 a.m., the station seemed to exist only for shadows. Dorian Hale, black, tall, and broad-shouldered, leaned against the metal railing of Platform 7. His hands were tucked into the pockets of his worn black coat, his eyes scanning the dimly lit hall. At 37, he had the quiet confidence of a man who had learned early to survive alone in a city that had not been kind. Security was his job, yes, but instinct was his true profession. Then came the soft shuffle of small footsteps. "Excuse me, sir," a trembling voice called. Dorian's head turned slowly. A boy, no more than 10, pale, hoodie soaked from the rain outside, stood looking up at him. His wide brown eyes shimmered with fear, yet carried an unnatural steadiness. "You have no home, and I have no mother," the boy said, voice trembling yet steady, leaving Dorian uneasy. The words hung in the air, heavier than the storm that lashed the city outside. Dorian approached slowly, keeping hands visible. "Who are you, kid? What are you doing here at this hour?" "My name is Rowan," the boy replied, "and I think someone is following me." A chill ran down Dorian's spine. Not fear for himself, no, he was used to danger, but fear for this child. Something about Rowan's eyes, a depth of knowledge or maybe desperation, that felt too old for a child. Before Dorian could react further, a tall figure appeared in the station hall. A woman, white, wearing a long black coat, moving with purposeful precision. Her gaze locked on Rowan. Even in the dim light, Dorian could feel her authority. She gestured subtly to two men emerging from the shadows, their earpieces glinting faintly. Rowan took a step back, gripping his small pendant. "That's her. She's been watching me for days," he whispered. Dorian's pulse quickened. "Who is she?" Rowan's lips pressed together. "She wants the pendant, or what's inside it. My dad said, if anyone ever came for it, they would come for me." The child's words felt like ice through Dorian's veins. Memories he didn't recognize stirred in the back of his mind. A fleeting sense of being hunted, of betrayal, of responsibility he had never fully understood. The station lights flickered as the woman stepped forward. Calm, cold, predatory. "Step aside," she said, voice low and measured. "You have no idea what you are protecting." Dorian took a protective stance in front of Rowan. "I protect children from monsters," he said firmly, more to himself than her. Her eyes narrowed. "Then you'll learn quickly that monsters sometimes wear human faces." The tension thickened. Every echo in the station seemed magnified. Rain lashed against the windows like drums, and the scent of wet iron filled the air. Dorian knew instinctively that this night would change everything, and that Rowan was the key to a truth larger than either of them could yet comprehend. Rowan slowly handed Dorian the pendant. Its metal was cold, engraved with a broken hourglass, ancient-looking yet modernly precise. "My dad said, don't let them take this. Don't let anyone touch it. If you do, it might be the end of everything." Dorian's eyes met the boy's. The weight of responsibility pressed against him like a vice. "I promise," he said quietly. "No one will touch you." But promises meant little when monsters were patient, and the night was far from over. The rain fell harder outside, beating against the terminal windows with relentless insistence. Puddles formed on the platform, reflecting the weak, flickering light of the station's lamps. Dorian Hale moved quickly, ushering Rowan to the small storage office near the end of Platform 9. Once inside, he closed the heavy metal door behind them. The sound of dripping water echoed faintly. Rowan shivered, hugging himself, wet hood clinging to his face. "You okay?" Dorian asked, crouching to meet the boy's eyes. His own gaze was sharp, scanning the corridor beyond the door for any movement. I think so," Rowan said, though his voice trembled. "But she'll come. She always finds me." Dorian frowned. "Who is she? And why do they want you?" Rowan shook his head. "I don't know. My dad, he left clues, but he never said her name. Just Celine." The name sent a chill through Dorian. Somehow it felt familiar, like an echo buried in memory. "Celine?" Dorian repeated. "Do you know anything else?" Rowan's small hands gripped the pendant. "She wants this, and what's inside it. Dad said if she got it, no one could stop her. That people I know might disappear. People who tried to help him." Dorian exhaled slowly. He had been trained for crises, had seen danger before. But the intensity of this situation was different. A child, alone, being hunted, in his city, and somehow Dorian knew he was the only one who could protect him. Dorian's past surfaces. As he looked at Rowan, memories he hadn't touched in years clawed at the edges of his mind. He remembered the narrow alleyways of his childhood, the rough winters when he slept under bridges, learning to survive on instinct alone. He remembered his father, gone too soon, leaving him to rely on his own wits. And most sharply, he remembered the lessons his mother had drilled into him. Lessons about integrity, about helping others even when it cost you everything. Rowan reminded him of that self he thought he had buried. The self that acted because it was right, not because it was safe. "Listen, Rowan," Dorian said, steadying his voice. "I don't know who she is or why she's after you, but right now you're with me, and no one touches you while I'm here." Rowan looked up at him, big brown eyes glistening. "You mean it?" Dorian nodded. "I swear." For a moment, relief softened the boy's tense features. But it was only a moment. The world outside was still dangerous, and they both knew it. They sat on a cold metal crate, the pendant between them. Rowan fiddled with it nervously, tracing the broken hourglass etched into its surface. "Can I ask you something?" Rowan said quietly. Dorian raised an eyebrow. "Go ahead. Why did you stop to help me at the station?" Dorian smiled faintly, remembering the moment from a few weeks ago when a similar act of kindness had defined him. "Because someone had to, and because you looked like someone who needed it." Rowan's lips curved slightly. "My dad said, some people in the world will do anything for power, but some people will do the right thing even if it's dangerous." Dorian leaned back against the wall, feeling a rare warmth. "Your dad sounds like a wise man." Rowan's eyes darkened. "He was. But they got him. They took him." Dorian's stomach sank. "Taken? By Celine?" The boy nodded grimly. "They experimented on him, erased some of his memories. That's why he left clues. He wanted someone to finish it. Someone who wouldn't forget." The pendant seemed heavier in Dorian's hand now. Not just metal, but responsibility, history, and danger all in one. A glimpse of danger. The sound of boots echoed faintly in the station corridor. Dorian stiffened. "They're here," Rowan whispered. Dorian moved quickly, checking the back exit of the storage room. The door was old and rusted, barely functional, but it would have to do. He grabbed Rowan's hand and they slipped out into the narrow maintenance corridors behind the platform. Rain poured through cracks in the old roof, soaking them instantly. The smell of wet concrete and rust filled the air. Dorian's heart thumped, but his mind was calm. Stay ahead of them. Protect the boy. Survive the night. Through the shadows, the faint sound of Celine's voice drifted toward them, calm, almost amused. You can't hide forever, Mr. Hale. And the child, he belongs to me. Dorian didn't answer. He tightened his grip on Rowan's hand and ran, footsteps echoing, the storm outside masking their escape, hints of the bigger plot. As they ran, Dorian began to notice something strange. Small, seemingly random symbols etched into the metal doors and walls. Hourglasses, spirals, broken triangles. Rowan noticed too. Dad said these markings mean something. He called them memory codes. Rowan whispered, panting. Memory codes. The phrase clicked in Dorian's mind. His pulse quickened. He realized Rowan's father had anticipated this moment, planned for someone like Dorian to intervene, and perhaps even planned for the boy to survive. You think your dad left us a map? Dorian asked quietly. Rowan nodded. A map or a warning. He always said Celine was clever, that we couldn't see her moves until it was too late. Dorian looked at the boy and felt the weight of the night press down on them. He had been trained to fight, trained to strategize. But protecting a child from a shadowy organization, that was something else entirely. They reached the stairwell leading to the street. Dorian peeked out, empty. For now. The rain had washed away their footprints, but danger was never far behind. Rowan looked up at Dorian. Do you think we can really stop them? Dorian crouched to meet the boy's gaze, his jaw set firmly. Not just stop them, he said. We're going to find out who they are, what they did, and we're going to make sure they can't hurt anyone else. Ever. Rowan smiled faintly, hope flickering for the first time in weeks. The storm outside raged on, but inside, something shifted. For the first time, Dorian understood what it meant to fight not just for himself, but for someone else. And with that, they stepped into the Haldenberg night, unaware that the city itself held secrets darker than the storm above them. The streets of Haldenberg were slick with rain, the dim amber streetlights reflecting off the wet cobblestones like scattered shards of broken glass. Dorian Hale led Rowan through the narrow alleyways, the boy's small hand gripping his tightly, keeping pace despite the uneven pavement. Every sound, the splash of water in a gutter, a car's distant horn, the echo of boots, set Dorian's nerves on edge. Do they have a name for what they do? Dorian asked quietly as they turned a corner. Rowan shook his head, his hood slipping back to reveal soaked curls plastered to his forehead. Dad just said, Celine's Institute. They experiment with people, memories, things people shouldn't even know. Dorian's jaw tightened. And you've been in the middle of this your whole life? Rowan hesitated. I didn't know it until they took Dad. Then he left clues. That's why I had to run, and why I came to the station. Dorian nodded, his mind racing. It wasn't just a chase anymore. It was a war against a network that had been planning this for years, and Rowan was the key. They rounded another corner and froze. In the distance, headlights glinted off puddles. Two black SUVs were idling near an abandoned warehouse. The rain masked engine noise, but the silhouettes were unmistakable. Celine's men were moving with precision, scanning the alleys like predators. Dorian crouched, pulling Rowan behind a stack of crates. Stay low. Do not make a sound. Rowan nodded, fear flickering in his eyes. A single figure separated from the SUVs and stepped forward, the unmistakable silhouette of Dr. Celine Hartwell herself. Tall, elegant, commanding, with her long dark coat flowing in the wind. She scanned the streets with cold calculation. She knows we're here, Dorian muttered. And she wants us. Rowan's grip on his pendant tightened. Then we need to move. Now. Dorian scanned the environment, spotting an old service tunnel entrance partially hidden by debris. Follow me. Stay close. The tunnel smelled of mildew and decay. Water dripped from the ceiling onto their heads, soaking them further. Dorian kept one hand on Rowan's shoulder, his other holding a small flashlight he had pulled from his coat. "Why me?" Rowan whispered as they crept through the darkness. "Why did Dad choose you?" Dorian didn't answer immediately. Memories of his past flickered. His childhood, the missions he had undertaken, and the shadows he had once fought against. "Because I've survived what most people couldn't," he finally said. "Because I understand what it means to be hunted." Rowan's eyes widened. "Hunted? Like this?" Dorian nodded grimly. "Exactly like this." As they reached the end of the tunnel, a sudden noise stopped them cold. A metallic clatter echoed through the narrow space. Dorian spun around, flashlight catching the glint of metal. From the shadows, one of Celine's men emerged, his face obscured by a rain-soaked hood. He raised a stun gun. Dorian reacted instantly, pushing Rowan behind him and launching a quick, precise strike to the attacker's chest. The man crumpled to the wet floor with a low grunt, sparks flying from the device. Rowan gasped. They're trying to hurt us?" "They are," Dorian said sharply. "And they'll keep trying until one of us is gone." The tunnel seemed to close in around them. Another pair of men appeared at the far end, blocking the exit. Dorian's mind raced. Trapped, cornered, no immediate backup. He grabbed Rowan's hand and darted to a side hatch he had noticed earlier, partially hidden under a rusted grate. With effort, he lifted it, pulling Rowan through. They fell onto the wet street outside, the cold rain soaking them instantly. Above them, the SUV's engines roared to life. Celine's men were scanning the streets now, realizing their prey had slipped through their fingers. Dorian sprinted with Rowan along a maze of alleyways, ducking into shadows whenever headlights passed. He could hear Celine's voice from the distance, calling instructions in calm, precise tones that carried authority and malice in equal measure. "Do not underestimate them," she said, though they were far enough to hear only faintly. "The boy is the key, and the man will follow his conscience. Trap him." Finally, Dorian led Rowan to a small abandoned cafe tucked into a narrow side street. The windows were shattered, the inside littered with overturned chairs and remnants of old furniture. Dorian sank onto a chair, exhausted, pulling Rowan close. "We need to plan. Rest for a few minutes. Then we move again." Rowan's teeth chattered. How do we even fight her? She's everywhere." Dorian's eyes hardened. "We don't fight her blindly. We fight smart. We use what your dad left behind. And we make her mistakes, not ours." Rowan looked at him, hope and fear mingling in his eyes. "You really think we can do this?" Dorian nodded. "I don't just think it. I know we can, because she doesn't know what I remember, or what we're capable of." As Dorian spoke, a shadow moved silently behind the broken counter. He tensed, ready for another attacker. But then a familiar voice whispered, "You're smart for choosing this route." Dorian spun. A young white man emerged from the darkness, tall, lean, eyes sharp with experience. "I'm Rowan's uncle," the man said quietly. "Or I was. Call me Gideon Voss. I've been tracking Celine for months. Your moves, they're bold but predictable. I can help." Dorian's eyes narrowed. "Why now? Why help us?" Gideon's expression darkened. "Because your fight is my fight. Celine isn't just after the boy. She's after everyone who stands in her way. And I've already lost people I cared about." Rowan's eyes widened. "You knew my dad?" Gideon nodded slowly. "I was involved. He trusted me to continue what he started if anything happened to him. Looks like the time has come." Dorian studied him for a long moment, a potential ally or a hidden threat. But Rowan's small hand gripped his arm, reminding him of what truly mattered. "All right," Dorian said finally. "We do this together. But we move smart. Every step counts. No mistakes." Gideon nodded. "Agreed. First, we map out Celine's network. Then, we hit her where it hurts the most.
Rowan looked between them, hope flickering faintly. Then, "We can save Dad?" Dorian placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "We save him, and everyone else she's hurt." The rain continued to pour outside, but inside that broken cafe, a small spark of strategy and hope had been lit. Outside, the headlights of Celine's SUVs cut through the foggy night. Somewhere, the enemy was already moving, anticipating their escape. Dorian clenched his fists, eyes scanning the shadows. "They're coming," he whispered, "and they won't stop until we're gone." Rowan's voice was steady, more determined than before. "Then we won't let them win." And with that, the three of them, Dorian, Rowan, and Gideon, disappeared into the labyrinthine streets of Haldenberg, stepping into a battle that would test their courage, their wits, and the strength of a bond forged in the storm.
The small, abandoned cafe smelled of damp wood and old coffee grounds. Rain streaked down the cracked windows, painting the world outside in gray. Dorian Hale, Gideon Voss, and Rowan crouched over a battered wooden table, the pendant now resting between them. Rowan's fingers trembled slightly as he traced the intricate broken hourglass etched into its surface. "Dad said this isn't just jewelry," he whispered. "It's a key." Dorian leaned in, eyes narrowing. "A key to what?" The boy hesitated. He never said exactly, but he left clues. He said someone with knowledge could use it to find the list, the real evidence of what Celine's Institute has done over the years. Gideon's expression darkened. "Celine's network is extensive. You think the pendant holds the location? Or the proof?" Rowan nodded slowly. "Both. Dad made sure no one could take it without understanding the system he built. The pendant, it's the first step." Dorian turned the pendant over in his hand. The broken hourglass wasn't just decorative. Tiny symbols were etched into the metal, almost invisible in the dim light. Triangles, spirals, and dots formed a pattern that was intricate, deliberate, and, Dorian realized with a jolt, a code. "I see it," Dorian said. "It's a map of sorts, a guide. But it's more than directions. It's a key to an archive, something Celine thought no one could ever reach." Rowan leaned closer, eyes wide. "My dad called it the hidden list. It's all of them. Every project she's corrupted, every experiment she's hidden, every person she's hurt." Gideon's face went pale. "If this is real, it could take her down. Entirely. The problem is we have to find it before she knows we're close." Dorian's jaw set firmly. "Then we start tonight. We follow the map. And we don't stop until we reach the archive." Rowan carefully turned the pendant, noticing a small latch hidden under the hourglass. With trembling fingers, he pressed it. A tiny compartment opened, revealing a folded piece of yellowed paper. His eyes widened as he read the lines. It's a list of addresses, buildings, offices, even private residences, all marked with symbols matching the pendant. Dorian studied it carefully. Every one of these places is connected to her network. Some are fronts, some are safe houses, some, he paused. His eyes darkened. Some are labs, people she's experimenting on. Gideon frowned. And the boy was right. She's after it. If she finds out we have this, she'll come for us full force. No mercy. Rowan swallowed hard. Dad said, the list also names people who've tried to expose her. People who disappeared. We have to be careful. Before Dorian could respond, the faint sound of footsteps echoed from the street outside. Rain pelted the broken windows in a rhythmic drum. They found us, Dorian hissed. The three of them barely had time to react. The cafe door burst open, and two of Celine's operatives stormed in, their raincoats plastered to their bodies, weapons drawn. Hand over the pendant, one of them demanded, voice cold and hard. Dorian's body moved before his mind could catch up. He grabbed Rowan and Dove behind the counter. Bullets ricocheted off broken tiles, sparks flying as the operatives fired with deadly precision. Gideon rolled a nearby chair at one of the attackers, knocking him off balance. "Go! Now!" he shouted. Rowan's heart pounded in his chest. "Dorian, what do we do?" "We survive first," Dorian said. "Then we fight back smarter." They sprinted through the back exit of the cafe, slipping into the labyrinthine alleyways of Haldenberg. Rain-slicked cobblestones made every step treacherous. Dorian's mind raced, scanning the environment for escape routes. "You okay, kid?" he shouted over the storm. Rowan nodded, clenching the pendant tightly. "I'm okay, but they're fast. And Celine, she's not like anyone we've faced." Dorian's jaw tightened. "I know, but we have the map now. We know where she hides her secrets, and that gives us an advantage." Gideon's eyes flicked toward a narrow stairwell leading underground. "There. That'll get us to the river tunnels. Less chance of being tracked. But moving fast. They'll follow." Dorian led the way, Rowan and Gideon close behind. They descended into the damp tunnels beneath the city, where the water ran thick and the air smelled of mildew. Once they reached a small alcove in the tunnels, Dorian pulled out a small flashlight and examined the list more closely. Each address had accompanying notes in Rowan's father's handwriting, precise and methodical. "These aren't just locations," Dorian murmured. "They're patterns, a sequence of operations. The labs, the safe houses, even Celine's personal quarters. He's mapped her empire." Rowan's fingers trembled as he pointed at one entry. "This one, Dad called it the core. The place where she keeps all the real evidence. Financial records, research files, proof of everything." Gideon's eyes widened. "If that's real, and we get in, we could destroy her. Every corrupt scheme, every illegal experiment, every cover-up." Dorian's fists clenched. "Then that's our mission. We reach the core, we expose her, and we stop her from hurting anyone else." Outside, the rain continued to lash Haldenberg. Somewhere above, Celine's operatives scoured the streets, unaware that their quarry had already found the first clue of her secrets. Dorian looked at Rowan, determination etched into his face. "This is bigger than us now, but we can do it. Together." Rowan nodded, clutching the pendant tightly. "Dad trusted us. I won't let him down." Gideon gave a grim smile. "Then it begins. The chase ends only when Celine's empire collapses. And it will collapse because she underestimated who she was dealing with." The storm raged on, but deep in the tunnels, hope and strategy had taken root. And somewhere above, Celine Hartwell's calm, calculating smile faltered for the first time in years. The tunnels beneath Haldenberg were dark, damp, and silent, save for the steady drip of water from cracked ceilings. Dorian Hale, Rowan, and Gideon had finally found a temporary safe space, crouched against the damp stone walls. Rowan clutched the pendant close to his chest, eyes wide and alert, but curiosity simmered beneath his fear. Dorian's mind, however, was elsewhere. The flickering shadows cast by his small flashlight had triggered memories he had long buried. Memories he rarely allowed himself to revisit. Dorian remembered the streets of his childhood like a map etched into his mind. The abandoned warehouses, the graffiti-scarred walls, and the alleyways where shadows seemed alive. He remembered running from men who didn't ask questions, learning early that survival depended on speed, cunning, and keeping your head down. He remembered his father, a stern man with an iron will, who had taught him the importance of integrity. "Your strength isn't in your fists, Dorian. he had said. It's in knowing the truth, keeping your wits, and helping those who can't help themselves, even if it costs you everything. His mother had always added a softer perspective. Character isn't proven in comfort, Dorian. It's proven when the world tries to break you. Rowan's soft voice echoed in his ears now. Dad trusted us. I won't let him down. Dorian realized that the boy was repeating the lesson he had learned decades ago, one that had shaped every choice he had ever made. His memories shifted to his first encounter with Celine Hartwell. Years ago, Dorian had been an operative in Haldenberg's clandestine intelligence division, trained in surveillance, infiltration, and extraction. Celine's network had been a ghost story then, a whispered warning to those in the know, but he had glimpsed the edges of her operations firsthand. She was brilliant, calculated, and terrifyingly patient. She didn't make mistakes, not really. She anticipated, manipulated, and concealed her tracks so completely that even the best investigators came away empty-handed. And yet, there had been a slip, a single moment where a small pattern revealed itself. Dorian had studied it then, curious, intrigued, but at the time he hadn't been ready to confront it. Rowan's father had been ready. Dorian's thoughts returned to his early years in the city's intelligence division. He had been trained to anticipate patterns, to see connections others missed, to turn chaos into strategy. He had also learned patience, the most critical lesson of all. The world of intelligence wasn't about brute force. It was about timing, about waiting for the perfect moment to act, and acting decisively when it arrived. He realized now that Rowan's father had understood the same principle. The pendant, the list, the encoded addresses, all carefully prepared for someone capable of thinking strategically. And now that someone was him, Rowan stirred in his sleep against the stone wall. Dorian's gaze softened. The boy's father had left him in their care not just as a charge, but as a partner in uncovering Celine's empire. Rowan wasn't just a child. He was a key to understanding the network, a living compass pointing toward the core. Dorian realized that protecting the boy wasn't enough. They had to teach him, guide him, make him ready for the dangers ahead. Celine didn't just want the pendant. She wanted the knowledge, the mind, and the resolve that Rowan represented. Dorian stood and stretched, careful not to wake the boy. Gideon was organizing their map, tracing lines from the list of addresses to probable safe houses and labs. Dorian ran a hand over his face, mind racing. Celine had underestimated him, just as she had underestimated Rowan's father. She thought a few operatives could pressure, intimidate, or eliminate them. But she had miscalculated one fundamental truth. Dorian Hale was not a man who could be cornered. And now he had Rowan, and Gideon, and the knowledge of her patterns. The next move would be theirs. He glanced at the pendant in Rowan's hand, the broken hourglass reflecting faint streaks of light from their flashlight. The core wasn't just a location. It was the heart of Celine's power. The files, the financial networks, the evidence of experiments, it was all there. Dorian's jaw set firmly. Tomorrow we move toward the core, but we prepare tonight. Every detail matters. One misstep, and Celine wins. Gideon nodded, tracing possible security patterns on their map. She won't expect us to be this careful. That gives us the edge. But she's smart. We need to anticipate her every step. Rowan stirred again, murmuring in his sleep. Dad, Dorian whispered, almost to himself. We won't let her touch him or you. Outside, the rain finally began to ease, leaving the city slick and glistening. Haldenberg's nightscape reflected in puddles on the streets above, as though the city itself were holding its breath. Dorian looked at Rowan and Gideon, a calculated resolve forming in his mind. Celine Hartwell thought she controlled the game, but she didn't know the players she had awakened. And in the shadows, the storm of the coming battle began to gather, promising danger, revelation, and the reckoning that was soon to come. The rain had stopped, leaving Haldenberg's streets slick and reflective. Dorian, Rowan, and Gideon moved silently through the night, their coats soaked but their resolve burning brighter than ever. The first location on the hidden list loomed ahead, an abandoned textile warehouse on the outskirts of the city, marked with the same symbol etched into Rowan's pendant. "This is it?" Dorian whispered, crouching behind a stack of wooden crates. "The first lab. We get in, gather intel, and get out without leaving a trace. Precision, patience, no mistakes." Rowan nodded, gripping the pendant in his palm. "We can do this, Dad. He'd want us to do this." Gideon gave a brief nod. "We move fast. Celine's operatives won't be expecting a coordinated infiltration at this hour. Let's use that advantage." They circled the building, taking note of security cameras, motion sensors, and potential patrol routes. Dorian had always had an eye for detail, something honed in years of intelligence work, and it was invaluable now. "Two guards at the front, one in the rear," he whispered. "Cameras on the north and west walls. Motion sensors likely inside. The best entry is through the ventilation shaft on the east side." Rowan's eyes widened. "We're climbing through a vent? Dad did this." Dorian smiled faintly. He had help. But yes, this is the approach he planned. Stay low, stay silent, and keep your focus. Gideon pulled out a small device from his coat, a portable jammer. "This will block cameras briefly, just enough to get you inside. Don't get complacent." They lifted the grate and crawled into the narrow metal shaft, the hum of the warehouse machinery growing louder below. Every metallic groan of the vent made their hearts race. Dorian led, Rowan in the middle, and Gideon bringing up the rear. At the bottom, they dropped silently onto a shadowed corridor. Machines hummed around them, casting eerie lights through the warehouse windows. Crates of unmarked equipment and chemical containers lined the walls. Rowan whispered, It's like a lab, but bigger than I imagined." Dorian's eyes scanned the room, noting the labels, the equipment, and, most importantly, the reinforced doors that likely led to Celine's secured files. Suddenly, a soft beep echoed from one of the machines. Dorian froze, recognizing it immediately. Someone's monitoring this remotely. Cameras, sensors. She's aware of intrusions faster than expected. Gideon's fingers flew over his device. "I've got it. Temporarily blind the feed. You have 30 seconds. They moved swiftly, slipping past motion detectors and hiding behind industrial machinery. The warehouse seemed endless, each corner revealing new threats. Locked doors, humming generators, and the occasional security guard rounding a corner. Rowan's hand shook as he clutched the pendant. "I thought Dad said this would be simple." Dorian shot him a sharp look. "Nothing worth saving is ever simple. Focus." They reached a reinforced door at the heart of the lab. Dorian examined it carefully. Electronic lock, biometric scanner, and a numeric keypad. "Dad left a clue here," Rowan said, tracing the pendant's etchings. "Look, the numbers match the symbols. We can use it to get in." Dorian adjusted the pendant to reveal a hidden set of numbers etched in its inner compartment. He keyed them into the pad. A soft click, a faint green light, and the door slowly swung open. Inside, rows of filing cabinets, encrypted hard drives, and stacks of folders waited. Labels like Experiment A1, Project Phoenix, and Public Contract Manipulations glimmered in the dim light. Rowan's eyes widened. "It's all here. Everything Dad warned me about. Gideon whispered, "We need to be methodical. Download everything, photograph, log. No mistakes. Celine will notice if a single file is missing." Dorian nodded. "Split up. Keep watch, record everything. Move fast." As they worked, a faint sound made them freeze. Footsteps. Celine's voice, calm, chilling, and confident, drifted from the far corner of the lab. "You really think you can come into my domain and take what's mine?" Dorian's heart raced, but he didn't panic. "She's alone," he whispered. "Gideon, cover the exit. Rowan, keep recording." Celine stepped from the shadows, long coat trailing, eyes piercing. "Impressive. Very impressive. But you don't understand what you've just triggered." Dorian's mind raced. She was not alone. This was bait. "Stay calm," he hissed. "Remember your training. This is a distraction." Celine circled them slowly, each step measured. "I've watched you, Dorian Hale. You're clever, but not clever enough. And you, little boy, you're far braver than you should be. Such a shame." Rowan gritted his teeth, holding the pendant. "We're not afraid of you." Celine's lips curled into a cold smile. "We'll see about that." Dorian grabbed a stack of folders and shoved them into his backpack. Gideon triggered a small smoke device he had concealed, filling the room with dense white fog. Celine coughed, momentarily disoriented. "Go!" Dorian shouted. They bolted toward the ventilation shaft, clambering back into the narrow passage. Smoke and alarms erupted behind them. Celine's frustrated shouts echoed through the warehouse. Once outside, they sprinted into the empty streets, hearts pounding, lungs burning. The pendant glowed faintly in Rowan's hand, almost guiding them toward the next location on the hidden list. Safe, but shaken, they paused under a flickering streetlight. Dorian wiped sweat and rain from his brow. "We got it. The first batch of files. But this is just the beginning. Celine will retaliate, and she'll be ready for us." Rowan's grip tightened on the pendant. "Then we keep moving. We finish what Dad started." Gideon nodded, scanning the dark streets. "The core awaits, and when we get there, Celine's empire will begin to crumble." Above them, the city remained quiet, deceptive in its calm. But the storm of confrontation, strategy, and revelation had only just begun. The sun had barely risen, casting a gray pall over Haldenberg's skyline, when Dorian, Rowan, and Gideon gathered in the abandoned warehouse that now served as their temporary safe house. Rain from the previous night had left puddles on the concrete floor, reflecting the faint glow of a single hanging bulb. The files from the first lab were spread across the table. Folders, hard drives, and coded notebooks detailed the intricate network of Celine Hartwell's operations. Contracts manipulated, experiments hidden, and financial transactions funneling millions into offshore accounts. "This is bigger than we imagined," Gideon said, running a hand through his hair. "She's been at this for decades. The core. It's where all the control originates." Rowan's eyes narrowed. "Dad said the core wasn't just a building. It's a fortress. Security, guards, surveillance. The works. How do we even get close?" Dorian leaned back, eyes scanning the city through a grimy window. "We plan. Every step, every contingency. The core is the heart of Celine's empire, and this pendant is the key. But we can't rush it. One mistake, and it's over." They huddled over the hidden list, marking the last addresses before the core. According to Rowan's father's notes, the core was disguised as a corporate research facility in Haldenberg's industrial district. Publicly, it was an innocuous biotech company, but inside, it housed Celine's full operation. financial records, experimental data, and evidence of corruption spanning decades. Dorian traced lines from each prior lab to the core. The network forms a path. Each location has a failsafe, but also information we can use to bypass the core security. If we time it right, we can enter, extract everything, and leave before she knows we were here. Rowan's fingers trembled as he clutched the pendant. It's guiding us, isn't it? Dorian smiled faintly. Yes, it's not just a key. It's a map, a code, and proof of your father's strategy. Every detail has been thought out. The journey to the core began at dusk. They moved through Haldenberg's alleyways, keeping to shadows and using the city's labyrinthine streets to avoid detection. But as they approached the perimeter of the biotech facility, something unexpected happened. A drone hovered silently above the street, scanning the area with red lights. Dorian froze. Celine's expecting someone. She's already adjusted her security protocols. Gideon cursed under his breath. We need a diversion. Something big enough to draw attention away from us, but fast. Dorian's eyes scanned the industrial district. Nearby, a delivery truck idled outside a warehouse. With a nod, he whispered, Gideon, handle the distraction. Rowan and I moved toward the east gate. Gideon rigged a small electronic device on the truck, causing its engine to spark and emit loud, erratic noises. The drone shifted focus immediately, and security guards poured toward the scene. Move, Dorian hissed, grabbing Rowan's hand. They sprinted across the wet asphalt, slipping between crates and machinery. The core loomed ahead, its glass facade reflecting the orange glow of streetlights. A security checkpoint guarded the entrance, reinforced with biometric scanners, cameras, and armed personnel. Rowan's fingers trembled as he held the pendant near the scanner, aligning the hourglass symbol with the etched numbers on the access panel. A soft chime echoed, and the gates slid open. Dorian motioned for Rowan to stay low. Inside, stay focused. Gideon's keeping the outside clear. We move fast, and we move precise. Inside, the core was unlike anything they had imagined. Floor-to-ceiling servers, filing cabinets with labels like Project Dominion, Shadow Contracts, and Experimental Subjects. Every detail from the hidden list converged here. Rowan gasped. It's all here. Every project, every secret, every crime. Dorian nodded. And now we document it all. As they began recording data, a soft beep echoed from the main console. Dorian froze. The pendant vibrated slightly, signaling interference. A voice echoed from the shadows. I've been waiting for you. Celine emerged, calm and composed, flanked by two unexpected figures. A former ally of Dorian's from the intelligence division, now revealed as a double agent. You didn't think you could infiltrate my core without a fight, did you? Celine said. And your friend here? He's been loyal to me all along. Dorian's heart raced, but he didn't falter. You underestimated us. That's your mistake. Rowan stepped forward, clutching the pendant. You can't hide this anymore. The world will see everything. Celine's lips curled into a smile. We'll see about that, little one. Bullets ricocheted off the walls as Dorian and Gideon covered Rowan, ducking behind server racks. The core's alarms blared, red lights flashing. Using a combination of smoke canisters, electronic interference, and calculated movements, they made their way to an emergency exit. As they emerged into the rainy streets of Haldenberg, Rowan looked back at the core. We got it, but she knows now. She'll come for us harder. Dorian nodded grimly. And we'll be ready. The core is exposed, and Celine's empire is vulnerable. But this is only the beginning. Safe for now, but hunted. The trio vanished into the shadows of the city. The pendant pulsed faintly, as if urging them onward. Every step, every file, every revelation brought them closer to justice, and closer to Celine Hartwell's final confrontation. Above the city, rain clouds gathered again, foreshadowing the storm of power, betrayal, and revelation that was still to come. Haldenberg streets were quiet, deceptive in their stillness. Dorian, Rowan, and Gideon had returned to their safe house with the stolen data from the core, but the victory felt hollow. They knew Celine Hartwell would not allow such an intrusion to go unanswered. Dorian spread the files across the table. "We've got everything we need to bring her down, but she knows we're coming, and she'll hit us where it hurts, hard and fast." Rowan's eyes, usually bright with determination, were shadowed with worry. "Do you think she'll target me? Dad said she would try to get the pendant." Gideon's jaw tightened. "If she can't get it, she'll try to hurt the one carrying it. We need to stay mobile. No base is safe for long." That night, the faint hum of rain against the warehouse roof masked the sound of approaching vehicles. Dorian had just finished encrypting the files when the windows shattered with a deafening crash. Flames and sparks erupted as a small group of Celine's operatives stormed in. Armed and precise, they moved like phantoms, targeting the trio's escape routes. "Get to the back exit," Dorian shouted, grabbing Rowan and Gideon. Smoke canisters ignited, creating chaos. Bullets ricocheted, striking crates and walls. Gideon fired his compact stun gun at an approaching operative, buying them precious seconds. Rowan ducked low, clutching the pendant like a lifeline. They ran into the wet streets, sprinting between alleyways and abandoned buildings. Celine's operatives pursued, relentless and coordinated. Dorian led them through the maze of the city, using every shortcut he had memorized during his years in Haldenberg's intelligence division. Rowan gasped, slipping on the slick pavement. "I can't keep up." Dorian grabbed his arm. "You can and you will. Focus on the pendant. It will guide you." Gideon glanced back. "They're trying to split us up. We can't let that happen." A sudden flash of light caught their attention. Overhead, a drone hovered, scanning for movement. Dorian's eyes narrowed. "She's watching from above. We need to lose the drone, or it's over." Dorian led them into an old subway tunnel, a relic of Haldenberg's forgotten transit system. Rusted tracks and dark corners gave them temporary cover. Rowan's pendant pulsed faintly, illuminating the walls with a soft glow. "This way," Dorian whispered, following the pendant's subtle guidance. "It's leading us to a hidden exit. We'll be off their grid, at least for now." As they emerged from the tunnel near the outskirts of the industrial district, the city lights glimmered in the distance. The rain had returned, falling in heavy sheets, masking their escape. Once safe, Gideon's expression darkened. "We've got a bigger problem. The operative who betrayed us at the core isn't just working for Celine. He's feeding information to a rival syndicate, one that wants the core for themselves." Rowan's eyes widened. "So, it's not just Celine?" Dorian nodded gravely. "No, we're caught in a three-way game. If we're not careful, the data we stole could fall into the wrong hands, even after all this work." The reality of their situation sank in. The core had been just the beginning. Now, they were in a web of deception, betrayal, and power struggles far larger than they had anticipated. Dorian examined the encrypted files, weighing his options. "We can't fight them all head-on. We need allies. The right kind of ally, someone inside the system who can validate our evidence and shield us from the double agent." Rowan's voice was soft but firm. "Someone like Dad. Someone who believed in doing what's right." Dorian nodded. "Exactly. And I know just who we can trust, a former colleague of mine in the Federal Oversight Unit. Discreet, incorruptible, and willing to act if presented with proof. Gideon looked uneasy. Getting them involved puts them at risk. Are you sure it's worth it? Dorian's jaw tightened. We've come this far. We can't stop now. The Corps' secrets must be exposed, no matter the cost. As the rain poured down, the trio huddled under the remains of a collapsed awning. The pendant glimmered faintly in Rowan's hand, like a heartbeat in the darkness. Tomorrow we take the fight to Selene, Dorian said, his eyes steely with resolve. We infiltrate deeper, anticipate her moves, and finally get the proof into the right hands. Rowan looked up at him, determination hardening his features. We'll finish this, for Dad, and for everyone she's hurt. Gideon nodded. And this time we don't run. We strike. Above the city, storm clouds churned, lightning slicing across the sky. The battle for the Corps and the fate of Haldenberg's secrets was only just beginning. In the shadows, Selene Hartwell watched from a high-rise window. A cold smile spread across her face. They think they've won, but the game has only just begun. Haldenberg held its breath as the storm of strategy, betrayal, and revelation gathered force, promising danger that would push Dorian, Rowan, and Gideon to their limits. Haldenberg's storm raged through the night, wind howling through empty streets, rain bouncing off cracked sidewalks. Dorian, Rowan, and Gideon moved cautiously towards Selene Hartwell's central headquarters, the Corps' main facility, guided by the pendant, which pulsed like a warning with each step. This is it? Dorian whispered, scanning the towering glass and steel structure that pierced the clouds. Everything she's built, every secret, it's inside. We get in, get the evidence, and get out. No mistakes. Rowan's hands trembled as he clutched the pendant. Dad's notes. This is what he trained me for. We can't fail. Gideon's eyes swept the perimeter. Security's tighter than the last time. Drones, armed guards, motion sensors. This won't be like the labs. We need a new approach. They crouched behind a row of delivery trucks, Dorian outlining the plan in hushed tones. 2 teams, he said. Rowan and I will go inside through the east service entrance. It's less monitored. Gideon, you'll create a diversion at the west entrance. Lights, alarms, anything to pull attention away. Once we're inside, we move fast. The Corps' heart, the control room, contains the servers and files we need. Rowan swallowed hard. And the double agent? Dorian's jaw tightened. He's here too. I don't know which side he'll choose in the moment, but we'll adapt. Rowan pressed the pendant against the east service scanner. A soft chime resonated. The gate slid open, and they slipped inside like shadows. The interior was stark, cold, and humming with the life of powerful machinery. Digital panels blinked with encrypted data, and the soft echo of footsteps hinted that Selene's guards were near. Dorian led, keeping low. Every step counts. Don't get seen. Stay close to the pendant. It knows the path Dad laid out. They reached a hallway lined with reinforced doors. Rowan noticed one marked, restricted. Core operations. This is it, he whispered. Dorian nodded. Time to finish what we started. As they approached the door, a familiar figure stepped from the shadows. Julian Hart, the double agent. His smile was cold, calculating. You really think you can walk through here and take everything? He said. Selene and I have been expecting you. Dorian's hand went to his concealed weapon, but Rowan held him back. We've prepared for this, he said. You don't know who you're dealing with. Julian's grin widened. Oh, I know exactly who you are. And I know how this ends badly for you. Rowan stepped forward, the pendant glowing brighter than ever. You might know us, but you don't know the truth. Everything you've hidden is about to come out. They were ambushed in the corridor, Celine's elite guards swarming from both ends. Dorian, Gideon, and Rowan fought with precision, using smoke, shadows, and the core's machinery to their advantage. Celine appeared herself, calm and imposing. "Impressive," she said, observing the chaos. "But predictable. You're clever, but not clever enough to dismantle my empire." Rowan, heart-pounding, raised the pendant. It pulsed in his hand, almost as if responding to his courage. A hidden compartment opened, revealing encrypted keys and files Dad had hidden for this exact moment. "Everything," Rowan whispered. "All the evidence. Every project, every transaction, exposed." Dorian and Gideon fought side by side, holding the guards at bay while Rowan uploaded the files to a secure cloud system. The pendant pulsed faster, guiding him through encrypted security layers. Just as they thought victory was near, Julian lunged at Rowan, trying to seize the pendant. "You'll never make it out alive," Julian snarled. But Gideon tackled Julian, giving Rowan the crucial seconds he needed to finish the upload. Sirens blared, lights flashed red, and Celine's control room began to lock down. Dorian grabbed Rowan. "Run! Now!" The trio sprinted through the corridors, pursued by guards, alarms echoing around them. As they exited through an emergency chute, the building's reinforced doors sealed behind them, trapping Celine inside temporarily. Outside, drenched and exhausted, Rowan confirmed the upload on his phone. The encrypted files had reached federal authorities and independent investigative journalists simultaneously. Dorian exhaled. "It's done. The world will see everything. Celine's empire. It's over." Rowan's eyes shone with a mixture of relief and determination. "Dad would be proud." Gideon nodded. "And now we prepare for the fallout. Celine won't go quietly." High above the city, Celine watched from her office window, her expression dark. "They think they've won," she whispered. "But this game has only begun. And next time, I'll be the one writing the rules." Below, the storm cleared slightly, revealing the first rays of dawn over Haldenberg. Dorian, Rowan, and Gideon knew the battle was won. But the war for justice, truth, and survival had only just begun. Haldenberg was still buzzing with news of Celine Hartwell's empire being exposed. Headlines flashed across digital screens. Biotech mogul's secret empire uncovered. Corruption, shell companies, and hidden experiments exposed. The public outrage was immediate, and federal authorities moved swiftly to secure the core and other sites linked to her operations. But in the shadows, Celine was far from defeated. Inside her private penthouse, overlooking the city, Celine watched the media frenzy with cold precision. Every smile on the broadcasted faces, every investigative article praising the trio's courage, fueled a darker resolve. "They've won the battle," she murmured, pacing the room. "But they haven't won the war. Dorian, Rowan, Gideon. They think they can destroy me and walk away unscathed. They will learn otherwise." She picked up her secure tablet, tapping into a hidden network of loyal operatives who had evaded federal detection. "Activate Project Nightfall," she instructed. The next morning, Dorian received an encrypted warning from an insider within the federal agency. "Celine's not idle. Expect coordinated attacks. She's targeting your contacts and assets. Protect Rowan. Move immediately." Dorian didn't hesitate. "Rowan, pack everything, documents, drives, the pendant. Gideon, we move." As they fled their temporary safe house, a convoy of armored SUVs appeared, cutting off their escape. Celine had deployed her private security team to track them. Bullets pinged off walls and asphalt as the trio ducked behind debris. The pendant pulsed violently in Rowan's hand, almost as if sensing imminent danger. Just as the operatives closed in, a sleek black van skidded to a stop, and an unfamiliar figure stepped out. Marceline, a cybersecurity expert who had once worked for Celine, but defected after discovering the depth of her crimes. "I know a way out," Marceline shouted. "Follow me through the underground passages. We'll lose them." Dorian assessed her instantly, noticing her calm confidence and detailed knowledge of Haldenberg's hidden infrastructure. "We're running out of options," he muttered. "We trust her for now." Marceline led them through a series of tunnels beneath the city. Flickering lights illuminated ancient brickwork, puddles reflecting their determined faces. The pendant pulsed softly, confirming they were on the correct path. Rowan struggled to keep pace. "How far does this go?" "Through the old subway system, abandoned maintenance routes, and secret sewer exits," Marceline replied. Celine didn't anticipate her own network being used against her. Gideon grunted. "Good, because we're about to hit her where it hurts." Celine strikes personally. While they navigated the labyrinth, Celine prepared her own countermeasures. She accessed surveillance feeds from multiple locations, targeting their families and closest allies. A chilling voice crackled through an encrypted line. "You're good, but not untouchable. Bring the pendant to me, and maybe I'll consider mercy." Rowan's grip tightened around the pendant. "Never. You won't win." Dorian's face was grim. "She's going to escalate. Every move we make, she'll anticipate. We need to think 3 steps ahead, no mistakes this time." Marceline's expression darkened. "There's more. One of your supposed allies in the federal agency may be compromised. Celine has infiltrators who know exactly what we're doing." Rowan's heart sank. "So, we can't trust anyone outside this tunnel?" Dorian shook his head. "Trust only within this group. Every file, every plan, every move is internal. Celine's network is bigger than we imagined. And if she knows about the pendant, we're in real danger." By nightfall, the group emerged from the tunnels at a hidden warehouse on the outskirts of Haldenberg. Rain poured down, soaking them to the bone, but the storm provided cover. Marceline set up a temporary command center, using encrypted laptops and secure satellite connections. "We'll track her moves," she said. "We'll counter her every strike. And we'll make sure the world sees her true face." Dorian glanced at Rowan. "This is only the beginning. Celine will strike again, harder, smarter. But we'll be ready. And this time we'll dictate the rules of engagement." Rowan nodded, his resolve hardened. "For Dad, for justice, for everyone she's hurt." Above the city, lightning illuminated Celine Hartwell's penthouse. She stared at the horizon, a sinister smile curling across her lips. "They think they've survived my first counterattack," she whispered. "They've only bought themselves time. The real game begins tonight." Below, the trio huddled in the warehouse, unaware that Celine's reach had already extended closer than they realized. The storm of strategy, betrayal, and danger had only intensified, and the final confrontation loomed ever nearer. The night was heavy with tension, clouds hanging low over Haldenberg. Dorian, Rowan, Gideon, and Marceline huddled in the makeshift command center in the warehouse, monitoring Celine's movements. Every screen showed a new threat. Her operatives were mobilizing, drones scanned the city from above, and encrypted messages indicated she was already executing multiple contingencies. Dorian exhaled, staring at the glowing screens. This is it. Celine isn't just striking back. She's trying to erase us entirely. Every ally, Every safe house. She's targeting them. Rowan's hand gripped the pendant tightly. Then it's time we end this. Tonight. The pendant pulsed, guiding them through Haldenberg's abandoned subway lines to a Secret Service entrance Celine had overlooked in her hubris. Marceline whispered, "Once we're in, we have one shot. The control room, the core's heart, is her nerve center. If we take that, we take her entire operation." Gideon tightened his gloves. "No distractions. No mistakes. We go in, neutralize her, get the files, and get out. Fast." They moved silently, shadows among shadows, each step calculated. Every turn of the subway tunnels echoed like a warning. Inside the core, Celine awaited, poised and confident. The lights reflected off her meticulously designed office, screens lining the walls with data streams flowing like rivers. "You really think you can dismantle me?" she said, voice smooth and chilling. "After everything I've built?" Dorian stepped forward, fists clenched. "This ends tonight, Celine. No more games." Celine smirked. "Oh, but the game is just beginning. You've walked into my web. Every exit, every backup, compromised. You're trapped." As the trio moved toward the control panels, hidden security drones activated, blocking their path. Electromagnetic locks snapped, sealing doors behind them. Rowan's pendant pulsed intensely. "It's reacting. There's a secret override nearby." Dorian and Gideon fought off guards while Rowan traced the pendant's signal. He discovered a concealed panel under the main console. With a swift series of movements, he triggered a secondary power grid that shut down the core's defenses temporarily. Celine's eyes narrowed. Clever, but not enough. Marceline's voice rang in their earpieces. "Dorian, Rowan, there's something you need to see. The core's backup servers. They contain records of every illegal transaction she's hidden. Not just in Haldenberg, but globally. Her reach is enormous." Rowan's eyes widened. "We have the evidence. All of it. This could end her forever." Dorian nodded. "We can expose her publicly and through the authorities simultaneously. No loopholes, no delays." Celine's composure faltered. You don't understand what you're about to unleash. I can destroy everything you've worked for." Just as Celine attempted to manually override the system, a holographic alert blinked in the corner of her main monitor. Julian Hart, the double agent, appeared on a live feed. Only now he was restrained by federal agents. "You underestimated them," Julian said bitterly. "And you underestimated me. Your allies have already switched sides." The trio realized the final piece of the puzzle had fallen into place. Celine's network had been infiltrated by multiple federal operatives and former insiders who had been quietly guided by Marceline. Sirens blared as federal agents stormed the core from multiple entry points. Celine's guards tried to resist but were quickly overpowered. Dorian, Rowan, and Gideon made their way to the central console, initiating the secure upload of every illicit transaction, offshore account, and criminal document to both international authorities and public media channels. Celine's expression hardened with rage as she realized the full extent of her defeat. "You've ruined me. All of you." Rowan stepped forward, pendant glowing with a calm intensity. "No, Celine. You ruined yourself. You thought power alone could shield you from justice. But integrity and persistence always prevail." By dawn, the city of Haldenberg was ablaze with news. Celine Hartwell had been arrested, her network dismantled, and every trace of her corruption exposed. Dorian, Rowan, and Gideon watched from a safe distance as authorities secured the core. Marceline smiled, exhausted but triumphant. "We did it. All of it." Rowan looked at the pendant, now dim and quiet. "Dad would be proud." We used what he taught us, and we didn't lose ourselves along the way. Dorian nodded. Integrity, courage, and strategy. That's how you win against someone like Celine. Not by being reckless, but by being smarter and relentless. Weeks later, Haldenberg began to recover from the shockwaves of Celine's empire collapse. Federal oversight agencies expanded reforms to prevent such corruption again, and international partners applauded the transparency achieved. Rowan, standing with Dorian and Gideon, reflected on the journey. It wasn't just about stopping Celine. It was about proving that even the darkest forces can be overcome when people act with courage, intelligence, and integrity. Dorian smiled. And sometimes, the smallest things, like a pendant or a careful observation, can change everything. Gideon added, "The world may forget the storms we went through, but they'll never forget what integrity can achieve." Above the city, the clouds parted. Sunlight broke through, illuminating the skyline. The storm was over, but its lessons remained, etched into the hearts of those who had dared to fight. Celine Hartwell sat in a maximum security cell, silently plotting her next move. She had lost the battle, yes, but she had not lost her mind. "Next time," she whispered. "They'll see. There's always a next time." Meanwhile, the trio, stronger and wiser, prepared for the next challenge, knowing that the world would never stop testing those who choose to stand for truth. Haldenberg had begun to breathe again. The storm of corruption that Celine Hartwell had unleashed for over a decade was finally behind them, or so the city hoped. Federal and international agencies worked tirelessly to restructure the Corps' remnants, ensuring that Celine's network could never rise again. Dorian stood atop a hill overlooking the city with Rowan and Gideon. The skyline, once overshadowed by the Corps' looming towers, now gleamed with the early morning sun. "Feels peaceful," Rowan said softly, "almost like we can finally relax." "Don't get used to it," Dorian replied with a small smile. "The world always tests people like us. But for now, this counts as a win." Gideon chuckled. "I never thought I'd see Celine Hartwell brought down like this. But we did it. Together." The pendant, now inert, hung around Rowan's neck, a reminder of the journey, their trials, and the lessons learned. Rowan had matured beyond his years. He enrolled in Haldenberg University's forensic accounting program, determined to continue his father's legacy. Each lecture, each case study reminded him of the night he first held the pendant and the nights he spent navigating Celine's labyrinthine empire. Dorian, now a consultant for the Federal Oversight Committee, worked to implement reforms inspired by the Corps' exposure. His meticulous nature and strategic thinking became instrumental in creating safeguards against systemic corruption. Gideon had returned to fieldwork, training a new generation of operatives in strategy, security, and integrity. He often recounted tales of their infiltration, using the story as a cautionary yet inspiring lesson. Marceline, finally free from fear of Celine's retaliation, established an independent cybersecurity firm. Her mission: prevent powerful individuals from exploiting systems for personal gain. Celine Hartwell remained in maximum security confinement, stripped of her empire, influence, and resources. Though she plotted in silence, she was powerless against the overwhelming tide of evidence, public scrutiny, and federal prosecution. Julian Hart, the double agent, faced trial for prior collusion but ultimately cooperated fully, receiving a reduced sentence for his role in exposing Celine. His testimony helped further solidify the legal dismantling of her empire. Haldenberg itself changed. The Corps' collapse had revealed flaws in governance, oversight, and corporate ethics. Local leaders, prompted by public pressure, enacted new policies for transparency, anti-corruption protocols, and educational programs teaching integrity and accountability. Children in Haldenberg schools now studied the Celine Hartwell case as part of ethics and civic responsibility courses. Students marveled at how a small group of determined individuals could expose massive corruption, proving that courage and intelligence could shape history. Rowan walked through the restored city streets, watching vendors set up stalls and families laughing in parks once neglected. He stopped at a small cafe and placed the pendant on the table, gazing at it silently. "Dad," he whispered, "you were right. Integrity isn't just a choice, it's a power. And courage can change the world." Dorian approached, smiling. "It also teaches patience. Sometimes the fight isn't just about force. It's about planning, precision, and knowing when to act." Rowan nodded. "And kindness. Sometimes the smallest gestures can become the biggest catalysts for change." The pendant, though quiet, seemed to pulse faintly, as if agreeing. Though justice had been served, the world beyond Haldenberg remained unpredictable. Powerful individuals still lurked, systems could still be exploited, and corruption could arise in new forms. The trio remained vigilant, ready to intervene when integrity was threatened. In the distance, a faint storm gathered, clouds curling ominously over the horizon. But this time, Haldenberg had protectors: Dorian, Rowan, Gideon, and Marceline, prepared to face whatever came next. Rowan smiled at the sky. "Let it come. We'll be ready." Dorian clapped a hand on his shoulder. "And when we act, we'll do it with the same precision, courage, and integrity that brought us this far." The city, reborn and resilient, stood as a testament to the power of character, strategy, and unwavering determination. The battle had ended, but the legacy of those who dared to act with courage and intelligence would endure for generations. The story of Haldenberg, the Corps, and Celine Hartwell became legend. Not for the wealth stolen, nor the empires built, but for the proof that ordinary individuals, armed with integrity, intelligence, and unwavering courage, could topple even the most formidable of foes. And somewhere, in quiet corners, Rowan and his companions continued to watch, ready to ensure that justice remained more than a fleeting ideal. It remained a living, breathing reality.